Yeah, so I would recommend, we're going to start on our backs, and you might like is just a little bit of a layer under your head, and then a supported, constructed rest position with your legs. So, okay. And then with the balls, you're going to set them up right where the base of the skull and the neck kind of come together. So right at the occipital ridge there. And so your neck won't be in a back bend. Chin will kind of drop gently in towards the neck. And you just kind of play around, because this should feel really good. It's like almost like a little tender spot. And so play around if you're not quite sure until you find a spot that does feel good. And then you just take your arms comfortably by your sides. And let the weight of your skull drop into those two pressure points right on the balls. You can let the weight of your heels drop down if they're touching the floor. Let both sides of the sacrum drop down. And let both shoulder blades drop down. So those 4 sets of points, the heels, the sacrum, the shoulder blades, and the skull. Those 4 points in your attention, just letting your body sink down. We'll do a little bit of breath work here. So regular breath in and regular breath out, just getting on the same page. And then inhale for 2, 3, 4, pause. Maybe one more little sip of breath. And exhale for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we're letting the exhales be slightly longer than the inhales. Inhale for 2, 3, 4, pause. Exhale for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Do that a couple times on your own. And your pace might be slightly faster or slower than mine. Do let it be a little bit of a challenge, lengthening it out, but not so much that is adding any stress to your experience right now. And as you let the exhale drain out, can even more of your body weight sink into those 4 points. And then reach up and just hold the tennis balls or tune-up balls in place. And you're just going to start to slowly shift your head left and right. You can nod the head up and down. And then letting your nose kind of lead. Start to draw some circles in either direction with your nose. Changing directions. And then you can move them down just a little bit more. So we're really in like the upper part of the neck, and same thing, just letting your head turn left and right. You can let the weight shift left and right as well, so that when you turn to the left, you have most of your weight on that left ball. When you turn to the right, you have most of the weight on the right ball. And do see if you can let your jaw be nice and soft as you move. You can nod your head, go ahead and draw some circles. And then you can take them out, just put them off to the side. We're going to slide the bolster out to your left and grab a block. So if you have a cork block, you might want to cushion it with a layer of blanket. If you have a foam block, probably good. That's going to just go right under the left side of the head. You can bring your right leg right onto the bolster. And then using both or one of the balls, both will be less pressure. One will be a little bit more pressure. You're going to bring that right onto the block underneath your temple. And you can hold it in place. You guys can see me behind the cat ears. And then what I was thinking felt good earlier is moving my head in circles as if it was one of the kind of wheels on the front of a train. So circling the head kind of forward and backward, if that makes sense. Letting the jaw be nice and soft. You might even open and close the jaw a couple times here. And turn the head left and right, up and down, changing direction on the circles. So the ball kind of stays put and you're kind of dragging all that tissue in a circular motion right at the temple. And then bring that down to the lower jaw, right in front of the ear. And we'll do the same thing. So a couple of little circles with the head. Open and close the jaw, maybe shift the lower jaw left and right. And then from here, you can kind of, even just with your fingertip, just kind of feel out the perimeter of your left cheekbone. And we're going to start to draw a half circle underneath the cheekbone from the outer jaw to like the inner left nose. And you can do that by kind of dragging the head or just like lift and drop the head, making little pressure points in a little semicircle around the underside of the cheekbone. So you're just kind of pushing in, tracing right underneath that bone, all the way towards the nose. And when you get to the inner cheekbone, outer left nose, you can pause there for a moment, maybe nod the head a couple times. And then we'll take it back, same thing, as if you could drag the tissue to the left in a little semicircle underneath that left cheekbone. And as you move from the nose towards the ear, you do want to really feel like you could almost drag that skin and tissue. Oh. You can put the ball down. You may or may not still want the block underneath, but we're going to take this into a twist from here. So the right leg supported on the bolster, and then the right arm is going to reach out to the right. And maybe you start out with a high support underneath the head, and as you get used to the shape, the block might not be necessary. Let the skull drop towards the back side of the head and really soften through the face. I've been thinking a lot this week about, the masks that we put on to interact in our everyday lives, and how much time we spend kind of facing forward, facing outward, facing a screen, getting pulled forward into the next thing. And so as part of our yogic practice of pratyahara, drawing inward, could you even imagine kind of shedding that outermost layer of mask and then retreating away from all the forward-facing parts of you and snuggling into the backside of your body, as if you could exist in the back of the skull, in the back of the heart, in the back of your skin. As if all of your bones could settle into the support of your own back body. Notice if it's easier to soften the left side of the face compared to the right after bringing all of that attention into the muscle and the tissue. Again, after a few minutes here, you may not need that block anymore. Last few breaths in this pose, can you really settle in? Are you allowing everything underneath you to hold your body? Which can seem like, yeah, of course I am laying on the ground, but the joints can have a hard time figuring out how to let go. And then unwind the right leg. Just pause for a moment in constructive rest on your back. Knees bent, feet on the ground. And then we'll set up for the other side. I did this earlier and I had to take a bathroom break in between the two sides. And I happened to notice how different my face looked, left side to right, even just a few minutes of this. So I'll start out with a block and blanket combination underneath the head and that ball right underneath the temple. And just start to draw some circles. Moving in almost like a horizontal plane, as if you were powering the front of a train. Letting the jaw be nice and soft. You're not in a yoga studio, so if you drool a little bit, that's fine. Change directions with the circles. You can move the head a little bit, side to side, up and down. Move the jaw. And then we'll move that ball down to that lower right jaw, right up where it meets the ear. And the same thing, just circling the head. And close the mouth. And shift that lower jaw from side to side. It's really great for folks that tend to clench. Nice thing to do before sleep. And then same thing on this side, just kind of, even with your fingertips, get a sense of where that right cheekbone is. And we're going to just press the ball in a semicircle underneath the cheekbone. So really you're just picking up and moving the head, finding that pressure, kind of tracing the shape of it towards that outer right nose. Couple little wiggles when you get there. And then retrace your path. And as you move the ball from the nose back towards the outer jaw, you can actually feel as if you're moving the skin towards the ear. And then release that. You can reset that left leg and open it up into a twist. As we move into the twist, or really anytime we move into a new shape tonight, it might feel good to do a couple of rounds of the breath that we started with, where your inhales are slightly shorter than your exhales. Where does your body land the heaviest here? And can that part of you that lands the heaviest inform any of the rest of the body and how to really settle down? Then you can unwind that left leg, come back to constructive rest. Take both balls, scoot yourself down to the bottom of your mat. And we're going to put them right below where we left off. So we have right in the middle of the neck, pretty much. And we're just going to lift up the hips any amount. That feels like too much, you can always skip it. We're going to do our best to keep the pressure on the balls the whole time. I'm just going to roll back. We're going to do like one long line from the neck, as if you could push all the tissue down the back, through the upper back, moving nice and slow. Maybe pause if you come to an area that feels like it needs a little more attention, and take a couple of those breaths where the exhale is longer than the inhale. If you need any wiggles as we go, feel free to take them. We're not going to spend too much time on this just because it's an hour class. But we're just tracing a path on the sides of the spine. So there are areas that feel more tender, maybe linger in those spots. And give those spots some attention in the form of a nice slow breath. And when you get to the part where the balls are below the rib cage, go ahead and come up onto your forearms. You can hold the outer edges of your mat. Walk your feet in a little closer. A little bit of a back tilt to the pelvis, so you're taking some of that back bend out, kind of curling the tailbone forward and up a bit, and then just kind of forward and backward glide, letting those balls dig right into your lower back. You can lean a little more to one side and then the other if that feels good. Inhale for 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we'll come on up to a seat. And let it be a comfortable seat. So maybe some height under your sit bones. Whew. All right. So you're just going to bring the two knuckles of your thumbs right underneath your chin, or sorry, right into your chin, right underneath your lip, and just press right in. And then you're going to trace from there out along the lower edge of the jaw towards the ears. And then right in between the eyebrows, go ahead and press in, and same thing, you're just going to slide out right above the temples into the hairline. Step it up a little higher, do the same thing, just kind of kneading out your forehead. This is one of those things where like, I did not even know how much I needed this. I really needed this. Oh, okay. And then for the last part, you're just going to thread your hands up into your hair. We all have hair here, but if you didn't, you would just use your fingertips to move the skin of your skull around. But you're going to reach up, just grab big chunks of your hair. Like you want a lot of it so that it doesn't hurt. You're just going to take up the tension and then just kind of turn your hands, corkscrew your hands right at the wrist, like side to side. You can draw some circles with the hands. So you're using your hair as like the levers to slide the skin and the tissue of your skull, of your head, all around over your skull. And then grab a new spot. I like to grab like right at the top of my skull. And same thing, just draw some circles, corkscrew the hands a little bit. Up and down, side to side. Do some circles there. And then you just find a new patch and do the same thing until you feel like the whole skull has gotten some attention. So you're not like pulling so hard that you're ripping out hair, just enough that your hair can move your head. And when you're done, you can bring your hands to your knees. Inhale for 2, 3, 4. Exhale for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, we're going to set up for legs up the wall. So for this, have your bolster be, I don't know, 5 or 6 inches away from the wall. Because we do want to have a little bit of a back bend in the lower back. And then have your blankets and your blocks within reach so that if it ends up being too much, then you have some ways to adjust. So what I like to do is just sit on the bolster sideways with more of my butt kind of in between the bolster and the wall. And then just kind of turn it up. So your sacrum is more towards the front edge of the bolster, which is going to bring your back into a little bit of a back bend. That feels like too much, and you'll elevate your shoulders and your head. so that they're more level with the bolster. It also might feel nice to have a little neck roll here. And I also usually like a blanket on the belly, but I'm not going to disturb Stella. So you might want to put a blanket or maybe even a block might be nice, just a little bit of weight on the belly. Find a comfortable place for your arms and either close your eyes or set your gaze at one spot that's not going to move. Couple of breaths where the exhales are longer than the inhales. And as you breathe, could you imagine any of the tension in your body draining out, heels, sacrum, shoulder blades, base of skull? So the practice of pratyahara, the sense withdrawal, is just giving your mind a break instead of looking outward, taking in new information. We try to close the eyes, sort of listening to all the sounds around us. We try to turn our listening inside. We feel for how things are going under the skin, that interoception. So you can get a sense of the parts of you that easily release into the support, and the parts of you that maybe don't release so easy or don't know how to let go completely. And as you got really intimate with those parts of you, putting some compassion around the fact that it is hard to let go. It is hard to surrender. It is hard to take a step back from all the doing. And then just be with yourself. Be with yourself without needing it to be more or different. And that's especially important in a season that can get really focused on more consumption. Go and bend your knees, bring your feet onto the wall. You're just going to shift your hips back so that your sacrum is more at the middle of the bolster, or maybe even a little bit closer to the top edge. So you're out of the back bend. And then you can take a blanket. This may or may not work for everybody. It just really is going to depend on flexibility and proportions. I'm already thinking about doing. All right, and then you put your blanket right there on your lower belly. We're going to cross the right ankle over the left knee. Folded this up a little bit bigger earlier, so you have more blanket in between your belly that your right leg can kind of rest on in a figure four. We're not going to be here very long. So you could even just hold the foot and the knee. Let that left leg just kind of hang out. Or if it makes sense for your hip and your knee, you can interlace the hands with your right hand kind of over the right shin. Just 2 more breaths here. And then we'll just change sides. And then release. Bring your feet right to the wall, lift your hips a bit to slide the bolster out. And then just roll to either side. And we'll set up for our last pose before Shavasana. So this one, you might need to experiment a bit. So we're going to come into a supported fish. Your heart is going to be right at the top of the bolster. So your shoulder blades will be right about here. You'll have 2 blocks to hold your lower legs. And I like to have this set up so that my feet can be right up on the baseboard. So you kind of just gotta feel it out here for feet in the right place, a little bit of a bend in the knee to kind of measure, because once you come back, you kind of move a little bit away from the wall. And then you want the bolster really under the back of the heart. Your shoulders will go towards the floor. And your feet are connected to the wall. Even if they're just touching, just enough that you feel kind of like plugged in still. So we'll experiment. If you have 2 bolsters, you can just line those up. Instead of using the blocks under the feet or under the lower legs. And then maybe a rolled blanket underneath the neck. So supported fish, or supported bridge. Feeling the weight of your body sink down, heels, sacrum, shoulder blades, and base of skull. Feel into the back of your head where we had the tennis balls to start. And as if you could open up two little valves right at that spot. Can you imagine all of the tension that you might be holding in your body? All of your stress, your worry. Draining out from your feet. Down through your lower legs. Through knees and thighs. Through hips and pelvis. Through lower belly and lower back. Upper belly, rib cage, lungs and heart. Any tension you might be holding in your throat, in your hands and forearms, your upper arms and shoulders. In your chest. All just draining right out through the back of the head. Soften all of the expression on your face. If this starts to bother the lower back at all, you can bend the knees, bring the feet onto the floor and just let the knees drop in. You could stay here longer. Or if you'd like to set up for Shavasana, you could move right into it and come into a flat Shavasana if you'd like. It might also feel nice to set up with a bolster, nice and high underneath your thighs. And a blanket tucked right around the thighs as well. Just kind of tuck it in, it'll hold your thighs together, which can help release the hips. And it also gives you that sense of being held, which can be a really nice way to downshift the nervous system. To help with the practice of pratyahara, you can put a folded blanket over your eyes, an eye pillow. Or sometimes I just use my hood. And take a moment to feel all the places where your back body lands. And imagine the back body could invite all of the bones, all of the tissue to drop in. Letting everything settle into the backside. A nice long inhale through your nose. And then let it out through your mouth. Stay here. If you're ready to move, notice which nostril is more open. And you'll just roll towards the more open side, letting your head rest on your bottom arm. And press up to a seat. Bring the palms together, just rub them together a couple of times here. Building up some heat in between the hands. Just bring them right to the face. Back to the heart. Close with one arm. Thank you so much.